Hello everyone, welcome back to another Commander Deck Tech. My name is Void, and just as a reminder, if you use the link to TCG Player in the description below, that is my affiliate link, so whatever you buy, a portion of that will go towards helping the channel, so I appreciate it very much. Today's deck tech is going to be Zurzoth Chaos Rider from Jumpstart. He's sort of the Devil Tribal Commander now. Just a 3-mana legendary devil. 2/3 whenever an opponent draws their first card each turn. If it's not their turn, you create a 1/1 red devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. Now that's not really a big deal. I've never felt personally that the devils were that interesting. Just tokens that when they die, they ping something. But the second ability kind of enables it. Whenever one or more devils you control attack one or more players, you and those players each draw a card and then discard a card at random, which can be kind of cool and a little bit disruptive. That whole discard at random means that your opponents don't get to choose what they want to discard. So they might be setting up their next turn's play, so they might be forced to discard a card they really wanted to use. The deck is kind of going to be a mixture of 3 things: Devil Tribal, card draw, and burn, trying to focus on some kind of mixture of all 3. There just isn't enough good devils to really make this a pure tribal deck, so you're going to see other creatures that are really there just to help out. Going over the lance first, we do have a Forgotten Cave, just 1 mana to cycle it, draw a card. You do need some decent card draw in red, although I wouldn't be too concerned. A lot of what the deck is going to do is draw cards for everybody. We also have 2 important cards here: Gaia Reach Sanitarium and Mikokoro Center of the Sea. Both of these allow each player to draw a card. Since our opponents are going to be drawing hopefully their first card when it's not their turn, when we activate this on ours, it means we're going to likely get a devil for each opponent, and if you're playing a typical commander game, that means 3 devils. We also have Scavenger Grounds because our opponents are going to discard a lot of cards. We don't want them to get those cards back. We also have a Valakut the Molten Pinnacle. We want to burn. We want to do a lot of burn. The devils dealing 1 damage isn't going to be enough, so we need to get burn elsewhere. Valakut, it is $20, but it's definitely worth it in a mono red deck. And to aid Valakut, we also have 32 basic mountains. Going to our ramp, we have Soul Ring, Wayfarer's Bauble, Arcane Signet, Fire Diamond, Mind Stone, Ruby Medallion, and Heraldic Banner. Since our commander is just 3 mana, we don't want to invest in a lot of expensive ramp, something that isn't going to help us cast our commander as soon as possible. So something like Gilded Lotus is a great ramp card. Don't really want to put it in the deck because our commander is cheaper. And a lot of the spells in the deck are just pretty affordable. Now starting it off here with the first strategy, we do have some devils. And devils do a few things, but you're going to see the theme of creature tokens dying and dealing a damage to any target. That's just the devil tokens and what they do. So the first devil we have is Chain Brute, sack outlet that pretty much allows it to untap. It doesn't untap otherwise. That's pretty much it. We have devil tokens and sometimes we want to get rid of them. We have Gibbering Fiend, enters the battlefield and deals 1 damage to each opponent. We want to take advantage of damage triggers too, so we have plenty of burn that's going to do that, and dealing 1 damage may not seem like a big deal, but we can double that, we can triple that, and it's going to be a lot more intimidating. Hobble Fiend, another sack outlet. We do pay 1 mana to sack a creature, but we can just slowly add counters, and it does have trample. Torch Fiend, really cool devil. We can sack it to destroy a target artifact. Vengeful Devil has Morbid, so a creature has to die, but when it does, has haste, and we can deal 1 damage to any target. Sin Prodder, probably one of the best devils. Devils are not that strong, but it does offer you some card advantage. At the beginning of your upkeep, you reveal the top card of your library. Any opponent may have you put that card into your graveyard. If a player does, Sin Prodder deals damage to that player, equal to the card's converted mana cost. Otherwise, you put it into your hands. So we do have a lot of things that can manipulate damage. If an opponent wants to take that damage, it might be more than just whatever the converted mana cost is. So, most of the time, you're probably just going to get it. I mean, we are in mono red, and we may not be the most intimidating deck at the table. We have Spiteful Prankster. As long as it's your turn, it has first strike, and whenever another creature dies, it's going to deal 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. Really cool because we have a lot of token devils we can easily get rid of and are probably going to die. So getting even more damage triggers in addition to the damage triggers those tokens tend to have is going to be even sweeter. It's going to pile on to it. Exactly what we want. Dance with Devils. 4 mana to get 2 tokens, but when those 2 tokens die, they deal 1 damage to target creature or player. you get more devils that you can potentially attack with, and it's instant speed, which means you don't have to do it on your turn. You can wait for your opponent's end step. That way, when it's actually your turn, you can use card draw, other spells that you want to use. Hellrider. Haste whenever a creature you control attacks. Hellrider deals 1 damage to defending player. Again, adding up the damage. Very solid devil when we want to just keep attacking our opponents. Wildfire Devils. When it enters the battlefield and at the beginning of your upkeep, you choose a player at random. That player exiles an instant or sorcery card from their graveyard. You copy that card, and you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Kind of a gamble, but if you do get a good card to exile, you get to play it for free pretty much. Havoc Jester, whenever you sacrifice a permanent, it's going to deal 1 damage to any target. It is a 5-mana creature, but we do have some sack outlets in the deck, which should make this pretty easy. And it's not just your stuff either. If your opponents have fetch lands, it's going to deal a damage to them too. All around, very solid card to have. Charmbreaker Devils. If you're tired of seeing this reprinted in just about every set, well, we finally have a decent deck to put it into where it seems to be more on theme. It's not just here to get you back instants and sorceries, it happens to be a devil, convenient for our strategy in at least that sense. But we do get instants and sorceries back to our hand. And a lot of those are good wheels, things that are going to give us even more devils. We have Devil's Playground. We get 4 1/1 red devil creature tokens, and when they die, they get to deal a damage. We have Fiendish Duo, 6 mana. First strike devil. If a source would deal damage to an opponent, it deals double that damage to that player instead. You want this in the deck. We have a ton of other cards that are going to double damage to our opponents. We're going to double, and that 1 damage we're pinging everybody with is suddenly going to be something like 3 or 5. It could be pretty crazy. We have Bedlam Reveler to end our devils. 8 mana, but cost reduction for our instants and sorceries that we have in our graveyard, 1 less for each, so it could potentially just be a 2 mana creature. Has Prowess, and when it enters the battlefield, you discard your hand and then draw 3 cards. So decent card draw. Problem in red is running out of gas mid to late game and not being able to compete with the control decks that have better card draw engines. So even if it is just 3 cards, it's still better than what a lot of red is used to. We have card draw to help us get some more goblins, and this is very important. You want plenty of card draw, not just for your opponents, but for you. Even though the strategy does say, hey, wheel, get as many tokens, you do just want a lot of card draw because you're in red. We have Wheel of Fate, cheaper Wheel of Fortune, the sacrifice being you have to wait 4 turns, but it's still going to do pretty much the same thing. Burning Inquiry. Each player draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards at random. Goal here is to obviously just do this on your turn and get 3 easy devils. Faithless Looting, good card draw just for you. Same thing with Skull Clamp, another way we can just kill off a token, but we get 2 cards. Winds of Change, another wheel card, but it's not 7, it's just equal to the cards you shuffled in. Still going to do the same thing as Burning Inquiry, get you 3 devils. We have Idol of Oblivion, which is kind of an underrated card. 2 mana artifact. We can tap it to draw a card, but only if we created a token this turn. So you're getting rewarded for card draw in general, because you need to have your opponents draw cards in order to create the tokens. We also have the other spells that help us create a token. We can also pay 8 and sacrifice it to get a 10/10 Eldrazi creature token, so that's kind of a big deal. We have Ruined Servitor. When it dies, each player draws a card, so very good way to get those devils. We have Magus of the Wheel, another good way to get those devils. Basically Wheel of Fortune on an activated ability. Molten Psyche, kind of another Winds of Change, but it has Metalcraft, so if we control 3 or more artifacts, it's going to deal damage to each opponent equal to the number of cards they've drawn this turn. So if we can get them to draw a bunch of cards, we have a pretty deadly burn spell here as well. We have Temple Bell, another way we can get each player to draw a card when it's not their turn. We have Otherworld Atlas, another way to do that, but it has potential to get even more card draw. Likely not going to put more than 1 charge counter on it though, since we only need them to draw 1 card when it's not their turn. Incendiary Command, a little bit more versatile, but going to pretty much accomplish the same thing as the other wheels, getting our opponents to draw when it's not their turn. Corvat's Fury, same thing, a little more versatile. Reforge the Soul, has a miracle, but pretty much a Wheel of Fortune. And Chandra Ablaze, her -2, making it so that each player discards their hand and then draws 3 cards. All pretty decent ways that we can just get those tokens and enable our strategy. Now for burn, this is when we really start to see the teeth in the deck. Garrett's Belligerence is a newer card, but I really wanted to play with it, because it's one of those red cards from Commander 2019 I've yet to do so. It deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures, and whenever a creature dealt damage this way dies, you populate, which pretty much means however many devils, you get another one. So it's another way, it's an X-costed spell. But I guess we could also consider this removal. I just personally like the idea of getting us some more creatures so that we can burn our opponents, but I guess it's a little bit of an overlap there. We have Goblin Bombardment, great sack outlet that we can also deal at damage on top of whatever damage our tokens are going to deal. We have Impact Tremors. When a creature enters, it's going to deal 1 damage to each opponent. So damage on top of other damage. We have Hissing Iguanar. So whenever another creature dies, you may have it deal 1 damage to any target player. We have Repercussion. Now this is probably the cheapest win in the deck, depending on the situation. So whenever a creature is dealt damage, Repercussion is going to deal that much damage to the creature's controller. We have a lot of board wipes in here, in addition to just ways to burn creatures, like with Garrett's Belligerence. If our opponents have a developed board, this is pretty much an easy win con. So all we have to do is just deal a certain amount of damage to every creature, and hopefully we don't have many on our board, and we can likely just win the game. Outpost Siege kind of in here for card advantage, but mostly in here for burn. So whenever a creature we control leaves the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to any target. Perforos God of the Forge, like Impact Tremors, but ×2. Insane amount of damage our red cards are going to deal, which is great because we have Torbrand, Thane of Redfell. So it's damage from a red source we control, so it deals that much damage +2, double damage. We have a lot of stuff in here. Ember Mahelian, if a red source we control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it's going to deal that much +1. Gratuitous Violence, this one's going to double the damage a creature we control would deal. And we have the new card Fiery Emancipation, which is going to triple the damage a source we control would deal. So burn spells, creatures, whatever. And on top of that, we have Angrath's Marauders, pretty much just doubling whatever damage a source we control would deal to a permanent or player. We do have Retrieval, we have Bag of Holding, which is a nice way we can pay 4 mana, sack it, and then get all the cards that were exiled from the discarding. It's a fun little trick, but not something you should really depend on. Underworld Breach, another great way we can get a lot of those cards and just play them over again. Just a really sweet card to have in red. We have a Tutor in Gamble, just so we can get Repercussion and probably go for an easier win. If not, we can go for something like a Fiery Emancipation or a Torbrand, just to speed up the strategy a bit. We have some disruption in the form of Pyroblast and Deflecting Swat. Not too much, it's not a specialty of the deck, but I like having just a little bit to complement the removal, which we do have in Vandal Blast. For 5 mana, we can deal with all of the artifacts we don't control, which is a pretty disgusting card to have. Chaos Warp, amazing removal in red, being able to deal with any permanent, shuffling it back in. Chain Reaction, however, Hour of Devastation, and Blasphemous Act are 3 insanely powerful board wipes in the deck. If we get Repercussion out there, a lot of these could win us the game. Even if it is Hour of Devastation and just 5 damage, if our opponents have plenty of creatures, that's going to add up in no time. If we have damage doublers, damage triplers, it's going to be even more. And to end the deck, we do have 2 cards for protection reasons. We have Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots. So overall, that's pretty much the deck. I think it's interesting to fool around with Devils. We definitely need more Devil support, but the deck has some teeth. I wouldn't say it's 100% a wheel strategy, even though wheels are good for it. All you really need are cards that just force your opponent to draw 1 when it's not their turn. I like this strategy, believe it or not, more than Torbrand, because Torbrand gets hated on pretty quickly. People know you're going for burn, and you're immediately adding 2 damage to everything you do, and people don't like that. At least with this deck, you can offer up some card draw, interact a little bit more, and probably stay in the game longer. So anyway, this is Void here signing off. Link to the deck will be in the description below. Have a wonderful day.